I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Education meeting at 6:02 p.m. Order pledge of allegiance. Roll call.
Dr. Broges? Here. Ms. Capabianca? Here. Mrs. Hona? Mr. Knight? Here. Mr. Lemoyne? Here. Mr. Nargi?
Here.
Ms. Richardson? Here. Mr. Tebow?
Here.
Mr. Trout?
Here.
Mr. Pagaro?
Here.
Mayor Carpel? Here. Mr. Becerra?
Present.
Mr. Campolita?
Here.
Ms. LaChance? Ms. Lebomsky?
Here.
Ms. Reitman? Here. Mr. DeMonico?
Here.
That's it.
Okay, school community session. Has anyone signed up?
No.
Public participation. The board invites members of the community to speak on topics to be addressed in the agenda or any other topics of interest. Individuals wishing to make comments are requested to fill out the speaker sign-up sheet, including name and address, which must be stated at the beginning of the comment. The board will not allow comments regarding specific staff members or personal grievances. Courtesy is expected in this limited public forum. The participating time will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 10 minutes overall to guarantee efficient operation of the entire meeting. No one signed up. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the following changes. We need to remove item number 5 and 6B, as the contract has not yet been ratified by the union. We also need to add an item A2 for tag students. And I would like to add item 4O, IT audit update. Oh, 4O.
What was the one before that?
A1, A2.
You replacing the A2 that's there?
No, we're just, it's 2 and then
3, 4,
just
5.
insert it in there.
Inserting it.
Oh, so you're inserting,
Then it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
thank you, sir.
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, information sharing session, Superintendent.
I want to welcome the TMS debate team to our meeting tonight and congratulate them on having won the Connecticut Debate League's Winter Championship in January. So congratulations, I want to introduce them. If I completely destroy your names, please forgive me. We have Donovan Tomaszewicz, did I say that right? Okay. David Molesky. Hello. Zoe Ori. Okay. They went 4-0. They defeated an outstanding team from St. Luke's School in the finals. There was a packed auditorium. We also have with us their teammates Jacob Cousins and Haley Codley. Is she here? Okay. There were 16 schools, 51 teams, 153 debaters. And all 3 of our debaters finished in the top 25 individually and won the championship. So we want to thank you for representing TMS so beautifully. And I also want to thank Angela Calabrese and Tara Minnerly, who advised the team. Thank you so much, and thank you for bringing our kids to such a wonderful place in their debating. Thank you. to acknowledge, although they've snuck out on us, but their teacher's still here. Allison Ida Peck is here. We had our tag kids here. They had some wonderful, I hope you got a chance to look at their projects. They were looking at alternative energy. They were looking at the solar system and the Big Bang Theory. They were looking at biographies. One young man gave us a really interesting talk about Spartan life and the meaning of a shield. We had some really wonderful things that we got to see, and thank you so much for your work with our kids and making sure they have their enrichment activities. We appreciate that very much. Okay. You have in your packet the AP results. There are some things that I was trying to get some answers to, but unfortunately, Mr. Bain was very ill today, and I was not able to finish getting information. We did see, if you look overall at the very first page, that we have been going down in our AP scores, and we did have a serious dip in the 2014 results, but we're going back up. So in 2014, we had 45% of our students had scores of 3 or above. In 2015, we were going back in the right direction to 59%. There are individual scores in each of the categories in which we offered AP exams, and I have that there for you to take a look at. If you have specific questions, you can either send them to me and I will make sure I get them from Mr. Bain, or if you got them from having looked at the packet ahead of time, I'd be happy to take them down, and if I can't answer them, I will get those answers from Mr. Bain. But that was, I waited too long to get answers on this, and then I sent him home because I couldn't understand him while he was coughing in my ear. Dr. Burgess?
Do we know what percentage of students that are enrolled in the courses actually take the exams? Is that in there?
It does, I don't think we have the enrollment necessarily, and then how many take the exams.
I would like to get that information. I'm concerned if we offer AP courses, 5 years ago, we really strongly encourage students to take the exam if we're going to do the course, because that ensures also the integrity of the course. I served on a college board for 3 years, and I'm concerned about if we're actually teaching the curriculum, because there isn't a measurement as to whether we are or not. And I'd like some reasons why students don't take the exam, because it doesn't hurt their college admissions. It can only help them. And they can choose whether to send those scores or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I can do that. Okay. I'm reporting out to some people and preaching to the choir for some of them. Several of us had the opportunity to attend a brunch at the middle school last week on Friday that was prepared and served, and it was a delightful time. The life skills group at the middle school served us brunch. They made their menus, they made placemats, they made us coffee mugs. It was absolutely delightful, and I'm so glad we had a chance to visit with Michelle Boulette, I believe Mr. Vergaro, Mr. Traub, Ms. Capabianco, Ms. Richardson, and Ms. Tona were all there for the brunch, and it was great. It was wonderful to see the kids. We got treated also to a slideshow of some of the other events and some of the things that they do, going out into the community to do grocery shopping, they were explaining how they participate in unified sports. It was really wonderful. So I want to thank Ms. Boulette for inviting us and for providing such a wonderful experience for us. It was really great. We really enjoyed ourselves.
Just a comment, if I may. That used to be the highlight of it. If we worked at the middle school, that was the highlight of our week. They would come around with a cart and serve, and we would purchase the items, but it was phenomenal. They do a phenomenal job.
They do. It was great. We really had a great time. And I just wanted to make the board aware, Mr. Becerra and I will be participating in a webinar in early March based on something that's called, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called swatting. It's where there were multiple threats being called in. It's pretty much using a robocall to call in threats. And it's happened to a few schools in Connecticut. It's happened to many schools across the country. And we are going to be participating in a webinar that talks about how it was handled at Fairfield High School that they had an incident, and so we will report out on what we've seen after that webinar. That's on March 7th. And use that information to determine what we need to do to make sure that our current procedures and policies relative to school security are as up to date and current as we can. This is, just to kind of talk to a little bit, it says swatting. It's they're threatening calls that are made nationwide or statewide. They're intended to distract large numbers of law enforcement. At Fairfield, they got all these threats, and they basically had to lock down all 17 schools in Fairfield. And so that did occupy most of the fire and police in that community for a certain period of time. So they have received quite a bit of recognition on the way that they handled it, and so they have offered through CAIG to have a webinar that we're going to be able to participate in, and we'll report out more when we know it. And also talk to policy to see if there's anything we need to add.
Sure.
I know you love that.
I do. Oops, me too.
Okay, that's what I have at the moment. Student report, she's not here. That's the student report, she's not here.
Staffing reports, Dan.
Well, there were no major changes in the staffing reports as compared to last year. The one bit of information that we did ask for this month that we have not previously asked for is an absence by school for the staff, both for teachers and for parents, to see what the fill rate is with our substitutes. And outside of one school, our fill rate for teachers sat somewhere between 89 to 93%. Our fill rate, however, for pairs is sitting somewhere between 63% and 75%. Only one school has a 92% fill rate, sorry, two schools have a 92 and a 97% fill rate for pairs. So obviously there's a discrepancy there on an average daily basis, so we need to figure out how to address this in the best, both economical and intelligent fashion. So.
Any questions on these reports? Okay, board retreat. The board retreat has been scheduled for Monday, July 20th, 2016 at 6 o'clock. We will have the board attorneys there. I just wanted to get the date out on everyone's calendar, and also if there's any items, any specific board members would like to see addressed at the retreat, if you could send those along to me so I can make sure that you cover them at the retreat.
Can you explain exactly what the retreat entails for a new member?
It's not what it sounds like. We'll basically go in a conference room for 4 or 5 hours.
So it's one evening, it's just one evening?
Yes,
Okay.
You had said Monday, the 20th of July?
yes.
That's a Wednesday.
In all fairness, it would technically be our normal Wednesday meeting, so.
Last year.
Should be the 18th, I apologize.
18th?
The 18th.
Is that it, Vicki?
Virginia. So basically, typically, what we do is we'll have the board attorney come out and give us some topics of interest, any education, any items that we want to learn more about. If there's anything specific anyone can think of.
The idea of retreat sounded like a multi-day thing or something, and I just didn't know.
Field trips.
Okay, we have several. First is a trip to spring training at Disney World for the softball team in April of 2017, April break 2017. They have gone through and gotten all the appropriate signatures, although at this point they don't know about the Whoop-Con at this time. They don't know who's going. But it is going to be funded by the softball team through fundraisers. Yes.
Is this the first time this has been done with the team?
I don't know, do you, I don't know.
What is,
Have you ever done that before?
Been done before.
no, they have not been, this is the first time, I think.
The first time they've gone to,
Spring training?
oh, did spring training? Have they gone other places?
The only question I would have is if it's a team that's participating, what if students can't afford it? Will the fundraisers be able to cover that, or?
It's all fundraising.
Okay.
They're doing the entire thing through fundraising. There's no individual, yeah.
Because it
it's
could
not-
get expensive.
Right, they're doing it entirely through fundraising. That's why they're getting it on the calendar now, because they're not doing it until a year from this April.
It's a phenomenal opportunity.
So, yeah. The second one is a trip to New York City. It is to the Museum of Modern Art. Mr. Legere is taking a class there in April, April 20th.
I have just a question. It says it's a one-day out-of-state trip, but they'll need 3 substitutes for 3 days.
They don't mean that. They mean they mean 1 day, 3 people. That's not what it means. It means 3 people, 1 day, so I think they're looking at number of substitute days.
So how many staff members are going on the trip?
3.
How many students is there?
36.
Three staff members and 36 students?
Yes.
But isn't school vacation?
And one parent.
I think it's earlier than that.
School vacation is the 11th through the 15th.
Okay.
Is there a reason that many staff members would have to go on a trip with 36 students?
Usually, the Museum of Modern Art does require a 10-to-1 chaperone ratio, so they're actually getting away with, they do have 4 because they have a parent volunteer also going. But usually, the Museum of Modern Art does require a 10-to-1 chaperone ratio.
I would say it's safer for New York City to have 10 to 1.
Probably.
No, I'm just curious why you wouldn't have more parent volunteers.
Right, chaperones can't be parents.
Yes,
They don't have to be staff members.
yes. I don't have that written down here, but my best guess, having supervised the art department, is that they want the chaperones to be well-versed in art, so that they can get the most out of the trip that they possibly can. That would be my guess, is that, knowing Mr. Legere as I do, his intention is not that they would just simply wander through the museum looking at things, but that they would interact with and be able to discuss the art intelligently and actually learn something from it. That would be my guess with Mr. Legere. He's not going to take them on a walking tour.
Yeah, I don't think they provide tour guides.
I don't believe they do either.
The other question I had is the busing part of the $53 per student cost, or?
Yes.
Oh,
That's my
This is museum admission and bus transportation down at the bottom.
Do we have an idea of how many students are going to be left behind that these substitutes would cover?
I do not.
I have an ongoing concern about field trips that cost money and there's no fundraising opportunities. And $53 is a lot of money for some people.
How does this fit in with the fact that we have frozen the budget, yet this is gonna cost us $300 in subs. And this was an unforeseen cost prior to you freezing the budget, so how do we approve something that's adding to our expenses when we froze the budget back in December, November, when did we freeze it?
In December, you're right.
I'm just saying,
You're
if it
absolutely
was
right.
fundraised to cover that cost, I understand, but I'm just concerned that we're gonna take on another debt that we were in front of the Board of Finance last night to explain how broke we are.
That's legitimate.
Can they come back, with a higher cost per student to cover the cost of subs? I mean, if their cost on the trip will reimburse the cost of substitutes, then I wouldn't object.
I can certainly ask. That doesn't address your concern.
Except no, it's the opposite.
It adds $10 to.
It does, but
And my concern is more anecdotal. I mean, I think we would have to make some sort of policy that says that fundraising has to be an option, you know, but I
Could approve the trip conditional on them coming up with the $300 for the subs.
They could bring it back in March. It's not till April.
My only concern with bringing it back in March is that the trip is April 20th. That may not give Mr. Legier the time to actually book the trip if we don't approve it until the middle of March.
I wouldn't mind approving a contingent on the cost of the trip, covering the cost of subs.
I'd like to see if you can combine all the subs into one class, so you only need one sub.
That's why I asked how many students were left behind. Do we need the 3 subs?
You can get away with one sub, you know, if there's 2 kids in every class, and you can combine those classes temporary for that day. One sub, I think we can absorb that cost a lot easier than the $300.
Okay. Got my notes.
I would still go against the 1 sub. We froze the budget. I mean, frozen is frozen. It's not partially frozen, it's frozen.
But if it's one sub, that would be a slighter increase, if that was divided amongst the students too, so.
Okay, the next one is a TMS trip to New York City to visit the USS Intrepid Museum. The 9/11 Memorial and Battery Park. This one does have a $60 cost per student. We're looking at fundraising, school activity, and PTO assistance for fundraising.
This is for next year.
This is for next year, right, this is for May 7th of 2017.
It says in the document that 8 teachers are going, but no substitutes are needed.
It's actually addressed a little further down.
Is it?
Under the possible cost of the trip, this is an alternative for those not participating in the Washington DC trip. There will be reduced students in attendance at the building, and the classes will already be covered by staff remaining in the building.
I should rather read the whole thing.
Nah,
Thank you.
gives me a chance to say something.
Any other questions?
And there's one other, the last one is the TMS trip to Washington DC in May 2017.
Question on the custodial overtime. It's checked out.
Probably 2. Welcome the
It
kids.
says it's needed the morning of the trip to open the building because they arrive at the students arrive at 4:30.
Any other questions? Board handbook, when everyone got here tonight, you had a nice little blue book in front of you. It's a work in progress. We had done this two years ago, I think. So we just updated it with all the current information. At next month's meeting, everyone's gonna get a policy binder with all of the current policies. And we'll continue to update this and add to it. So if there's anything you'd like to see in this binder, let us know, and we'll get it to everybody.
Would you like the old ones back so they can be reused?
Good?
There's probably only 2 or 3 of us that have them.
Any other questions on that?
Thank you.
Board of Ed self-evaluations, we're just basically bringing this up because we want to try to get this done prior to the review this year. So we're going to turn it over to personnel to draft a format for the Board of Ed to evaluate itself. So, all for you, Dan.
I've got, I just have something for the Board of Ed members to look at it, if you want to take a look at a draft or something that we can, I don't have it on some.
You're sending this to subcommittee?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's just an idea, so we can take a look at it for some evaluation. I don't know if you think that that's a good.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to start, you know, you had it on the agenda, so I said, okay, what were you?
Any other questions on this?
What's passing?
Well, you notice if you just come to, the way I set it up is that if you just come to the meetings you're supposed to go to, you get an 80.
Oh,
That's
that's reasonable.
That's okay. You want better than an 80. So in order to get better than an 80, you have to go to other school visits, you have to go to subcommittee meetings that you're not assigned to, you have to do more than that.
We fall below and get fired.
Maybe you don't get reelected.
Oh.
Anything else on this? Special education update.
Okay, so not a lot has changed in regards to the special ed. I did break down the monthly budget data with totals for the transportation, tutoring as requested, and the tuition. So you'll see that as in addition to that spreadsheet. I also gave you the list of students that have been outplaced since July 1st with the date that they were outplaced. The highlighted blue are the ones that were outplaced since I came on board. All the other ones were already in the works. As far as programming, I am still looking at ways to condense and enhance the programs that we already have. I'm looking at some new programs to provide for some of the population that we don't currently have and we would otherwise have to outplace. And that's about it.
Just a quick question, did we ever have life skills classes in elementary school?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because it's surprising, we have them at middle and high school, that we never have them in elementary school.
Well, we also now have one in TK.
Right, but
So that's
not.
why I'm looking at creating a life skills so that we have a continuum of services and we can provide for those little guys.
Currently, that means everyone is outplaced that has a need? in
Well,
life
if we
skills.
can't provide for them or create
you know, an individualized program for them, yeah, we have to outplace them. And we have some very fragile kids coming in. So that, as you know, is one of the issues. Sure.
Are we at, below, above the revenue source for our special ed increases?
Well,
I mean, all our special ed costs, there's matching funds, or
Not all of them.
no.
some of them, most of them, none of them?
Not most of them. They're actually working on the numbers to get us an
Why
exact
asked her
number.
what the number, is it?
They don't
above?
have it yet, so they're working on it.
Why isn't a running total though done, monthly, daily, weekly?
Of what?
Do we get some revenue at all for special ed? What's our special ed budget, $12 million?
It's a little bit more than that.
Okay, hypothetically, it's 12 million. Of that
So
12
we have
million,
ex-
do we get
We
money?
have excess cost money that we will get back, but that's $100,000.
In the presentation we did to the Board of Finance last night,
Yes,
we're 1.9 million in the red from what was budgeted.
okay.
The
That's
excess
expensive.
cost that we are eligible for is 118,000 and change.
I don't, it's not that.
No,
no,
no.
that's why they're.
It's,
There's,
at present, if you look at the monthly budget data, if you look at that one, we are presently in the hole $470,000. We have additional costs that were not budgeted for of 1.8 million. But at present, to date, we're $470,000 short
as of December.
as of
Through December.
through December. So,
But that shortage includes or doesn't include whatever state or federal monies that we will be entitled to.
it doesn't
does.
include, it doesn't include anything. That is strictly based on expense, Andrew, because we don't have all those numbers yet. We don't have all the revenue numbers.
New student comes into the district in December, and it's projected that student's going to cost the district an additional $50,000. There is no funds, we have to pay the 50 out of our budget, but there's no funds outside of our funding that will follow that 50,000.
No,
No.
no.
The only way we could is if some of that $50,000 represents services that are reimbursable, we can submit those for reimbursement through Medicaid. However, if that $50,000 is strictly the cost of the tuition, it falls below the threshold where we could apply for excess cost reimbursement. We would have to, unless that student is in-house. If that student's in-house, then our threshold is $15,000. We could then submit the $35,000 as part of our excess cost reimbursement. If that student were to be outplaced once they arrive here, then we would not, because the threshold for outplaced students is $77,000. So it really depends on where the student is placed and whether or not that $50,000 represents something other than tuition, like reimbursable services.
So all of the students that we are additional students, the additional 1.8 million you said, they're all below the threshold of reimbursement.
Not all of them.
And that's the question I've asked you 5 minutes ago.
Four.
Which is,
There's
But
four.
I gave you that
And
number.
we gave you the number.
and that's all there is out of 1.8
1.8
million.
million,
Yes.
you get about 120,000.
Yes.
That's it.
If you looked at
Of
each one and
additional,
you looked,
okay.
If you look at this sheet that you have, you'll see the ones that are above $71,000 are the ones that we can put in for excess costs. However, we only get 75% of that back, and we calculated that to be about approximately 118,000.
That exact page isn't in the packet.
Oh.
But if you go to the first page of the special ed report, it's the earlier version of that, and you can still run down through there. There's a student at 155,000, a student at 79, 123, 114, 109, and I believe that's 84. And those are the only students that are above the threshold that were eligible for reimbursement. And of that's above the threshold, you only get, in a good year, 75% of that.
of the excess.
of what is above it. The balance of the 1.8 million is not eligible to be applied. There may be some Medicaid, which is what Linda was saying, they're going through now and splitting those out to see if there's any Medicaid reimbursement eligibility.
And that 1.8 million is going to cover just the expenses. Say the student, again, came in on January 1st. So before January 1st, he was 4 months or 5 months in Granby School, whatever. That, we're only picking up the actual expense from January 1st to June 30th.
Right, if they're a new student to us.
Right, we're not picking up, and the funding that student received from July 1st to January 1st at the old school, that was prorated for the actual time that student spent at Granby.
Granby would have picked that up.
What's that?
Granby would pick that portion up.
But they didn't
because-
get like a full year of funding, they just get it on a.
A monthly basis.
Okay.
So, they're working on getting exact numbers because we don't want to start putting numbers out there till we're positive on what the Medicare reimbursement is and what all the factors are, so we know exactly what we're looking at.
And again, the question is, once you get student in and he's 55, 60, whatever the amount is, and you know that you projected that it's $55,000, but you don't have right then and there the funding that's going, if there is funding, that will go right then and there to that $55,000. You won't know that until when?
Well, if it's 55,000, there'll be no funding associated
Okay,
with that. 'cause it's not
figure a
basement.
number, 80,000, there's gonna be some funding.
Right, right.
Okay. And you don't know that number right then and there?
No.
Why is that? You know that you're gonna have an $80,000 expense, but you don't know what the funding's going to be?
You mean our reimbursement?
The reimbursement, yeah.
Okay, so it's anything over 4.5 times our tuition. For out of district, it's $71,000. So anything over the 71,000, we potentially get reimbursed 75% of that. Now, it's a state calculation, and it's based on the expenditures across the state. So we really never have that definitive percentage until they do their calculations.
But you have a definitive estimation of the cost.
And it doesn't come in that year. I mean, the money that we're getting, that we're seeing now coming in for the excess cost reimbursement is from 1 or 2 years ago. So it's not something that we put in this year and we see it even in July. It's a year, it's a rolling year to year. It's not, we never get the reimbursement in the year that we spent it, and rarely get it in the year after we spent it. It's usually something that goes back a year or two.
How do we balance the books on that?
Well, that money never, doesn't actually come to us. It goes to the city. The city advances us the money, and when the money comes in, they receive the revenue out.
So do they advance us in the year that we accrue it, in the year that we
No, it's part of our
incur the
budget.
expense?
Yes.
We get a budget.
The answer to your question is yes. We get budgeted, in the budget, if you go back to last year's budget, there's roughly 1.4 million in estimated excess cost to the board. What the city has done year after year is they use, like in the 16-17 budget, they will use our excess cost number from 15-16. Assuming we have the same kids and we may see some additional students, but they carry that as a revenue to the city. So it's in the calculation of what the tax rate will be for, mill rate. But we're just an expense budget, so we only budget 100% of the expense.
Right.
The city budgets the revenue.
That is a separate issue then. So on the ones that really concern me are the behavioral issue outplacements that aren't forced by a special ed, that we're outplacing, choice because we're saying that they're too much of a behavior issue to handle here in our own school system. Are we doing a really good cost analysis of who we can hire as far as extra paraprofessional, a teacher who, I mean, elementary school teachers, there is a glut that, you know, you can hire elementary school teachers. It's hard for them to find jobs. Can we hire someone for one-on-one cheaper than we can outplace? And are we analyzing every single case of
I
those?
am analyzing every single case, and if I can hire a one-to-one to keep that child in, that's what I do. Now, there are some children that have extreme mental health issues, and it's a danger, and we're not doing the child any justice without outplacing them. I am very stringent on who gets outplaced, and do not take it lightly. Like I said, if hiring a one-to-one or creating a new program or buying a program for a child to maintain that child in the district, I will do that, whether the budget's frozen or not.
Is there any data that shows how special ed expenditures are calculated throughout all of the school districts in the state, so that we can see, let's say, just like we looked at the AP test results, whatever, 3 or 5 year showing of every town, and every town, for example, how many towns are getting a $1.8 million increase in special ed in January?
Well,
We see this every year, and every other town is faced with the same dilemma that we are.
well, some towns have programs that provide for some of those populations. And that's one of the things I'm looking to do, is to create some programs so that we can program and service our kids and keep them home.
Andrew, come to the ad hoc, when we get together and we do the ad hoc committee on special ed, because I agree with you. I want to think outside the box, and I want to get a group of cities, of Board of Educations, and of mayors to exert political pressure on Hartford to change the way we do business on special ed in the state of Connecticut. But it can't be Torrington alone. You're right, it's got, every other city is experiencing the same thing. I know of a district that I'm working in right now is $800,000 in the hole. So if we get band together, maybe we can get the legislators in Hartford to hear us.
Well, I guess, would anyone know what the total special ed expenditures for the entire state system is over the last 5 years? So is it, we're seeing this huge increase this year, but is that the same percentage increase for the entire state special ed budgets?
Well, I think there's multiple factors. So we're seeing this large increase, but over the last couple of years, we've been not allowed to budget for any special ed costs that we know we're going to incur that we don't have in the year that we're budgeting for. So in the past, when we used to budget 5 years ago, we used to budget in for an increase because we know we're going to get additional students. But the directive is that we can no longer budget for those additional students. So I think our increase is overinflated because we're not allowed to properly budget for what we know is going to happen.
But that's just half the equation. The other half of the equation is, that half of the equation is how we budget for special ed. The other half of the equation is what the percentage of our entire school budget is going to special ed. And obviously to the detriment of the taxpayers of the city of Torrington, and to the detriment of the community as a whole. And is that representative of the entire state of Connecticut? Is every other town in the state of Connecticut faced with this fiscal burden that's crippling the town of Torrington, driving businesses out, causing the mill rate to be one of the highest in the state? We look at 167 other communities. Are we on par with them? Are we at the high end, the low end? I mean, I think we need to know that, so that, like Ken says and Peter said, do we have to talk to our state reps? We've been having this conversation for 9 years.
That's why we're forming the special ed ad hoc.
I understand it, but now's the time to talk about it. I mean, where do we collect our data? When are we gonna get this? Is that
Special ed
data?
ad hoc committee's gonna collect the data, because demographics, there's a lot of things that come into play as far as who your population is that impacts these numbers.
Andrew, I'm actually, I mean, the staff at Mid-Genomics doesn't have the time to do this. I'm actually planning on picking up the phone and calling other districts. Once we get approval from the ad hoc committee to go ahead with that, I want to start picking up the phone and make phone calls.
And if we could get a form together, I could bring it to Ed Connection, because there's 20 school systems represented there that have board members, and they're all facing this similar issue. But I had a question on Medicare reimbursement. Do we get all the reimbursement that we are entitled to? Because our percentage was lower than some other school districts. Are there any factors that limit our reimbursement?
I know that Beth Murphy, who is our Medicaid, the gal who takes care of our Medicaid, she is, to say that she has a lot of perseverance would be a gross understatement. I mean, she's going after as all the Medicaid that she possibly can. One of the things that she's also making sure of is that tracking through the new IEP Direct software, we can look to see if in fact hours of service, like OT, PT, speech, if those are being logged. And if they're not being logged, she's coming back to Paula or to me to say, okay, it looks like these hours weren't getting logged, which means we can't bill them. So she's really looking at that system on a regular basis to determine, are we actually logging all the hours of service that we provide so that we can submit them for reimbursement. She is our go-to person as far as the Medicaid reimbursement is concerned, and she is tenacious. So
Hopefully our percentage will go up.
she's really working hard to make sure that that happens for us. And as far as the figures, I mean, I have no problem with contacting the State Department of Education, contact the Bureau Chief and see if they may have that. I would guess the state is great at collecting information that they sometimes do something with, but they may have those figures already, so we'll check to see if those figures are available for you, Andrew.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else on this? 2016-17 budget.
Okay. Let's find my stuff. Okay, you should have in your packet, the first thing would be our budget planning process, which is a two-page document where we talk about what the plan is and how we're putting the budget together. I apologize to those of you who came to the budget committee meeting the other night because you're getting the same spiel. Obviously, throughout 15-16, our whole focus has been on getting the budget rectified to make sure that what was supposed to be budgeted got to the right places, and for the most part, we have been able to finish that up. We have really decided that the remainder of this year has to continue, the focus has to continue to be on making sure that our house is clean. We're digging out from under, we're trying to rectify past mistakes. We feel that we have a good team in place now who is working diligently to make sure that these budget issues get addressed. And so we are continuing to focus on cleaning it up. What we have decided for next year is that we want to focus on stability. We want to focus on making sure that we have a good foundation to build on and that we're not trying to add a lot of new initiatives, to make a lot of changes until we have a solid foundation on which to build. And so we're really focusing everything on stability so that in the 17-18 school year, we're ready to start moving forward and making whatever changes and updates need to be made. But we don't feel that we're going to be in a good position to add more initiatives, make a lot of changes. We have a lot of cleaning up to do, and then we have a lot of foundation building to do. We took very seriously the Board of Education goal, which was number one goal for the 16-17 school year was to investigate ways to make the budget process more efficient and less stressful. We took that to mean you meant for all of us, so we are working very carefully to make sure that we have a good solid budget in place. Mr. DeMonico has been very clear with everyone throughout the budget process that what we are looking at is developing a budget that is based on the real needs of our students and not on what we did before, not on a kitchen sink wish list, but on presenting the board with a realistic budget of what we actually need to educate all of the students of Torrington. So that's what we're really looking to do. We will be putting forth our initial budget. If you look at the page after the budget planning process, that is the budget meeting schedule that our budget committee chair has put together, so that for the 29th of February, you will be getting our preliminary budget proposal. And we are putting every bit of effort we possibly can into making sure that that's done. And then we have a series of special meetings to discuss the budget. We have public hearings. We will have our budget to you in March. That's when we will be giving you our budget when it becomes, up until then it's mine, and after that it's all yours. And we will be looking for input and guidance as to what we need to do to make that fit in with the city's plan and the board's plan. We will have our final budget pulled together to go to the city in April, and that's our time frame as special meetings are convened. I'm sure that you know that we will post them. And I just wanted to take a moment, you should have in front of you, Heather's got them. Okay, the major drivers that are impacting the budget, some of you saw this already. We're not giving you the budget proposal tonight. What we're giving you is information that will explain what we felt were the important things that needed to be considered in putting together the budget. So that's what you're getting tonight, is the major drivers. What kinds of things were we considering? What's the thought process that's going on at central office? And I guess I was trying to be clever because I just can't resist putting pictures into my presentations. But one of the things that I put in the first page is a picture of a class that is actually, would have been my kindergarten class, May of 1957. That's who we used to teach. We don't teach those kids anymore. The kids don't come to us quite as ready to sit in rows, and that's why you have the "this is now." The second page is the children that come through our doors are no longer simply children who are sent to school, who sit quietly in rows and just absorb every pearl of wisdom that we choose to throw before them. That's not what's happening. We are dealing with children with a variety of special education needs, ranging from physical issues to mental health issues to learning disability issues. We know, for example, that we have in several of our schools 5-year-old children who have been diagnosed with PTSD after having dealt with things we can't even begin to imagine that our kids deal with. And those kids are coming into our doors every single day. We have a very high ELL population. We have a lot of kids who come to school who just simply do not understand anything. And I thought about being a real smart aleck, and if I could have, to present my budget presentation in Spanish and maybe give people an idea of what it's like to sit in a class and not understand anything, but I thought that might be just a little too cheeky and decided not to go there. But I could do it in German for you if you like.